Hi. Thank you, Teresa.
Where is the beginning of this chapter?
The beginning of the chapter or the beginning of the paragraph?
No. Are you talking about the paragraph, not the
No,
chapter?
no. I'm talking about the whole paragraph.
Okay.
Sorry, the
Okay.
whole chapter. Sorry. Joyce's idea was to show all the different styles, no, from the Anglo-Saxons up to his time. But in fact, what he's trying to prove is that what they were writing at his time was based on all the old tradition. Something that, as I was saying, Bloom, the critic, no, Bloom, I'm talking about Bloom, the one who wrote a lot of criticism about Harold Bloom. He said that everything in English literature is based on the great masters, Shakespeare, Wordsworth, Byron, you know. And in a way, this is more or less what Joyce is trying to prove. He's mixing and using all the different styles because he believed that everything is based on all the good things that were written before. I don't know where we stop here. Can you give me the... Yes, tell me.
The paragraph beginning amid the general.
Amid the general, yes.
Yes. Yes, we were in more or less.
And we left in what you dog?
Okay, here, yes. What you dog? Okay. Well, this is Costello, one of the students there. Have you a way with them? That's bad, immensely so said Mr. Lynch. The bedside manner it is that they use in the Mater Hospice. So they are always talking about you. We read a lot of information about births and medical instruments, etc. No, so Demi, does not Dr. O'Gargle chuck the nuns there under the chin? As I look to be saved, I had it from my kitty, who has been ward maid there anytime these 7 months. So they are laughing at, you remember the Nurse Callan,
Yes.
because she has entered the room and has told them to stop making such a noise because the woman was having the baby. And she asked them for silence and to behave, let's say. And so they start mocking her. Lots of mercy, doctor, cried the young blood in the primrose vest, feigning a womanish simper and with the immodest squirming of his body. How you do tease a body. So they start imitating, or not imitating, mocking the nurse. Drat the man, bless me, I'm all of a wibbly wobbly. Why, you are as bad as dear little Father Catechism. So again, mocking, this father doesn't exist, no? Father Catechism is an invention. That you are. May this pot of 4 have choked me, cried Costello, if she ain't in the family way. I knows a lady what's got a white swelling quick as I claps eyes on her. The young surgeon, however, rose and begged the company to excuse his retreat, as the nurse had just then informed him that he was needed in the ward. So the surgeon has to leave the room. He has to go to the ward. Now let's remember that the poor Mrs. Purefoy is having the baby. Merciful Providence had been pleased to put a period to the sufferings of the lady who was enceinte, which she had borne with a laudable fortitude. Yes, poor woman has been there for 3 days, so that is a laudable fortitude. And she had given birth to a bouncing boy. Remember that this is a boy. I want patience, said he, with those who, without wit to enliven or learning to instruct, revile an ennobling profession which, saving the reference due to the deity, is the greatest power for happiness upon earth. So he's asking for some patience with the nurse, because the nurse has been mocked, the poor woman, no? I am positive when I say that if I need if need were, I could produce a cloud of witnesses to the excellence of her noble exercitations. Because in fact, the one who has been with the woman all this time, etc., is the nurse. The doctors have been drinking and laughing, no, and the nurse is the one who has been helping the woman, which, so far from being a byword, should be a glorious incentive in the human breast. I cannot away with them. So who is the one who is criticizing the doctors who are laughing and who criticize or mock the nurse? This is Bloom's voice, okay? So the other day, Vanessa asked me if this, whose narrator was there. This part that we are reading, talking about the excellence of the work of the nurse, etc., this is Mr. Bloom's stream of consciousness, we can say. He's the one who says, I cannot be with the doctors who are laughing all the time, who are drinking, etc., because the one who is excellent in this question is the nurse. What? Malign such an one, the amiable Miss Callan, who is the luster of her own sex and the astonishment of ours? And at an instant, the most momentous that can befall a puny child of clay. Yes, so he says, I mean, this woman is so great, and they are mocking her. This is, he's angry, no, at the, perish the thought. I shudder to think, so this I is Bloom, I shudder to think of the future of a race where the seeds of such malice have been sown and where no right reverence is rendered to mother and maid in house of horn. So you see how he is really very angry at these young men, because having delivered himself of this rebuke, he saluted those present on the by and repaired to the door. A murmur of approval arose from all, and some were for ejecting the low soaker without more ado, a design which would have been effected, nor would he have received more than his bare deserts had he not abridged his transgression by affirming with a horrid imprecation, for he swore a round hand, that he was as good a son of the true fold as ever drew breath. So he's ready to leave, and the other doctors are going, the students are going to criticize him, but he stops, yes, and he tells them that he was as good a son of the true fold as ever drew breath. Stop my vitals, said he, them was always the sentiments of honest Frank Costello, which I was bred up most particular to honor thy father and thy mother, that had the best hand to a roly-poly or a hasty pudding as you ever see, what I always looks back on with a loving heart. So, Costello feels affected at what Bloom has shown, and so he says, no, I am a good son, I honor my mother and my father, and so I am not like this, no? To revert to Mr. Bloom, who after his first entry had been conscious of some impudent mocks, which he, however, had borne with as being the fruits of that age, because Mr. Bloom thinks that these men are young, and so that's why they are so, they lack respect for the nurse, upon which it is commonly charged that it knows not pity. The young sparks, it is true, were as full of extravagancies as overgrown children. And this is a bit of an explanation, no? That these men, these young men, were full of extravagancies because they were like children. They were very young. Well, we also know that they were drinking all the time too, no? The words of their tumultuary discussions were difficultly understood and not often nice. Their testiness and outrageous mots were such that his intellects reside from. nor were they scrupulously sensible of the proprieties, though their fund of strong animal spirits spoke in their behalf. But the word of Mr. Costello was an unwelcome language for him, for he enunciated the wretch that seemed to him a crop-eared creature of a misshapen hebosity. What is this? We are meeting somebody called a crop-eared creature of a misshapen hebosity, born out of wedlock and thrust like a crook-backed tooth and feet first into the world. This description belongs to our Richard in Shakespeare, no? With the hunchback. Richard says that he was born out of wedlock, that he was not
Bastardo.
a bastard, yes, thank you. I couldn't find the word. And that he was born with this hunch at his back, and that his feet were first into the world, that he came in the wrong position, no? So this is a part of the description of Richard, which the dint of the surgeon's pliers, this is what the surgeons use to pull out a baby, no? Lo forceps. In his skull lent indeed a color too, so as to put him in thought of that missing link of creation's chain. Darwin, what is the missing link between the man and the monkey, no?
El eslabón perdido.
El eslabón perdido, desiderated by the late ingenious Mr. Darwin. It was now for more than the middle span of our allotted years. The middle span of our allotted years, this is, remember that we are listening to Bloom. And of course, Bloom is 38 when the novel is written. In 1904, Mr. Bloom is 38 years old. And of course, he feels that he's in the middle of his life. That's why he says that it was now for more than the middle span of our allotted years. That he had passed through the 1,000 vicissitudes of existence, and being of a weary ascendancy, because we know that he is a Jew, and self a man of rare forecast, he had enjoined his heart to repress all motions of a rising choler. So, for Mr. Bloom, this Mr. Costello is a monkey. He thinks that he is like Richard II, I mean, a prodigy of nature, no? He was born wrongly. But at the same time, because he has lived a long existence, 38, he says that he has learned to repress the motions of a rising choler. So he has learned to control himself, we would say, by intercepting them with the readiest precaution, foster within his breast that plenitude of sufferance which base minds jeer at, rash judges scorn, and all find tolerable and bad tolerable. So he doesn't say anything. He wants to control himself, to behave elegantly, no? To those who create themselves wits at the cost of feminine delicacy. So see how Mr. Bloom is against those who laugh at women. And here it is expressed that they create themselves wits, se hacen los piolas sería, at the cost of feminine delicacy, a habit of mind which he never did hold with. To them he would concede neither to bear the name nor to inherit, not to inherit the tradition of a proper breeding. So Mr. Costello has said that he was honorable, that he was well educated with his father and his mother, etc., etc. But Mr. Bloom thinks that is not right. That is not true, because he says that a man who does this, who laughs at women, doesn't or shouldn't bear the name or to have the tradition of proper breeding. while for such that, having lost all forbearance, can lose no more, there remain the sharp antidote of experience to cause their insolency to beat a precipitate and inglorious retreat. So, of course, the way in which Mr. Bloom reacted without being, rude, has the purpose of making Costello retreat, o sea, stop mocking women. Not but what he could feel with mettlesome youth, which, caring not for the mouths of daughters or the grantlings of the severe, is ever, as the chaste fancy of the holy writer expresses it, for eating of the tree forbidden, yet not so far forth as to pretermit humanity, upon any condition soever towards a gentlewoman when she was about her lawful occasions. So, this meddlesome youth, ¿no? Es como chicos que se portan mal, chicos bandidos, ¿sí? Should be sent away, yes, from all these gentlewomen. To conclude, while from the sister's words, remember that the nurse is also called a sister, no? As if she were a nun. To conclude, while from the sister's words he had reckoned upon a speedy delivery, he was, however, it must be owned, not a little alleviated by the intelligence that the issue so auspicated after an ordeal of such duress now testified once more to the mercy as well as to the bounty of the Supreme Being. So, now he feels at least that we know that the poor woman has finished her suffering, no? Accordingly, he broke his mind to his neighbor. So he told his neighbor, the man who was sitting by him, saying that to express his notion of the thing, his opinion, who had not perchance to express one, was that one must have a cold constitution and a frigid genius, not to be rejoiced by this freshest news of the fruition of her confinement, since she had been in such pain through no fault of hers. So, Mr. Bloom tells the one who is sitting by him that, well, it is a moment of happiness. No one has to be happy a new baby being born and the stopping of the pain for the woman, no? The dressy young blade said it was her husband's that put her in that expectation. So when Mr. Bloom tells the one who is sitting by him, well, we should all be happy, fortunately, the woman stopped suffering and the baby is born, etc. This man, the dressy young blade, no, the one who is sitting by him, said it was her husband's that put her in that expectation. No, so the answer is also rather irrespectful, or at least it ought to be unless she were another Ephesian matron. So the poor woman suffered all that, and the one to blame was her husband or somebody else if she was a whore, because Ephesian matron is a synonym for a whore. I must acquaint you, said Mr. Crothers, clapping on the table so as to evoke a resonant comment of emphasis. All glory allelujurum was round again today. An elderly man with Drandria is preferring through his nose a request to have word of Wilhelmina, my life, as he calls her. Mrs. Purefoy's husband, you remember those who, Gabriela, we never read about this man, but Vanessa will remember, I think, is this man who is rather mad, the one who walks in the streets with a lot of papers and asking for different judges to present his demands, no? So the man, he's called here mockingly, Glory Allelujurum.
Yes.
So Mr. Crothers is not only mocking the woman, saying, bueno, que se la banque, sino the man who was responsible for her pain is this Glory, but they call him like this, no? And saying that he spoke through his nose, ¿no? Como que hablaba se hacía to speak through your nose es hacerte como
Esperado.
sí, claro, como soberbio, ¿no? He spoke through
Claro, como hablar, sí.
y la
Hace
llamaba
bien.
la mujer Wilhelmina, my life, as he calls her. So now they started mocking Mr. Purefoy, no? I bade him hold himself in readiness for that the event would burst anon. Slife, I'll be round with you. I cannot but extol the virile potency of the old bucko. So they say that this man is old because, well, Mr. Purefoy is not young. And the one who is speaking, Crowther, says that he has to extol, to praise the virile potency of the old because this man, you know, has, they've had already 9 children. In fact, I think they had 12, but some of them are dead. So that could still knock another child out of her. So well, the whole expression is, all fell to praising of it, each after his own fashion. Though the same young blade held with his former view that another than her conjugal had been the man in the gap. So now they start saying that Mr. Purefoy is not the father, no, that there is another one in the middle, a clerk in orders, a link boy, virtues, or an itinerant vendor of articles needed in every household, no, el sodero, más o menos.
Yes.
Singular communed the guest with himself, the wonderfully unequal faculty of metempsychosis possessed by them. We go back, you remember that this word appears and reappears, yes? The famous metempsychosis that Molly couldn't pronounce or couldn't understand, you remember? And so it appears again here in this chapter, no? Because this idea of metempsychosis, this question of being reborn in another being, you remember the idea is this one, no? When people die, they are reborn in some other being, a plant or an animal.
Reincarnate.
Reincarnation, yes.
Exactly. So this idea will reappear in this chapter later on, no? So they say the wonderfully unequal faculty of metempsychosis possessed by them. So they are saying that the clerk or the link boy, the men who were in the middle between Mr. Purefoy and Mrs. Purefoy are reincarnated as if they were Mr. Purefoy, no? Of course, they are laughing at the man and at his poor wife, no? That the puerperal dormitory and the dissecting theater should be the seminaries of such frivolity that the mere acquisition of academic titles should suffice to transform in a pinch of time